三请教书里安健孙. Good evening and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a weekly podcast and YouTube show discussing spirituality and science, balancing health and well-being with mind, body and spirit, with a Daoist twist. The Tao means the way, the balance. Now, surprise, surprise, we are not the normal talk show. Each week we have either a subject or guest. This week we have a very wonderful guest. The aim is to discuss, to have an open discussion, to help us all find new skills, new techniques, new ways to balance our own personal Tao. As always, pick some awesome co-hosts that help present this show with me. Now, already on AWOL, he's already gone missing, which is the mighty Robido, the Robbie McKenzie, Robido. But he will be back. He will be back once he's done his work, his mediumship. Also here at the moment, I have the awesome, the normally quiet, the ever respectful, the ever elusive, the questioner, aka Chris Clutton. Good evening, Chris. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening. I swear you do that just to get me to raise an eyebrow.
Yes, I do. I am the Bogster. I that is my aim. That is my mission. There will possibly be Agent 35, which is Marilyn Devonish. She may also be turning up at some point, and when she does, I will draw her into the affray. I think that's the right terminology. I will draw her into the conversation once we get an opening. Now, tonight, the wonderful, we have LeNae. Wasn't a brief. LeNae Goolsby.
Correct.
Yes, she's given me a nod. I have passed. I have succeeded. I have got past. Now, she does many things. To say she is a life coach would be an understatement, but she does many things which she will herself quantum life coaching and other things. So, my ultimate question, which is, this is the show, The Way of LeNae Goolsby. So, LeNae, what is your Tao? What is your way?
So essentially my way is kind of like nothing that I want is upstream. So it's pursuing the path of allowance, of ease and grace and flow and peace. Succinctly put. So.
Wow.
What is your way?
I love that. That is awesome. LeNae is the first person ever on the show to actually ask that, she is a cool Sifu. She is a cool life coach. What is my way? The way of me, the way of Boggie. My way is to help people find their balance, find their personal Tao through life coaching, through Tai Chi, through Qigong, which is energy exercise, through healing, through massage, through energy work. So is to help others find their own personal balance. That is my way. But enough about me. Let's more focus on you. So let's delve deeper. What do you do, LeNae?
Sure. So, I mean, I think you already know that I spend a lot of my time running an integrative medicine practice. I do that in 2 different cities that are 3 hours away. So I split my time between those 2 cities. When I'm not doing that, I work with men and women who are struggling in some area or another. And I work with them kind of from a spiritual perspective, because my belief is that every issue, at the root of every physical issue, there's a spiritual solution. I believe Dyer said that. And so I try to open up their perspective to look a little deeper. I think so often many people are looking at the surface level of a stressor or a problem, and I try to get them to look at, you know, what is at the root of that? What is the cause of that from a spiritual perspective, and just help them shift that perspective. So I work with people who maybe they feel stuck in their career. Their family relationships aren't what they desire them to be. They are lonely in love, and are seeking a mate. Maybe there's an abundance issue, so various issues. And then, you know, a lot of people complain today about stress, and they reaffirm, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm depressed. And so really I focus on getting them to shift out of that mindset of constantly affirming what their stress is, and start focusing on what their blessings are, because that's when you start to see the changes in your physical reality.
So do you find that people invoke the I Am presence without really knowing what it is they're doing?
Definitely, most definitely. You can stand in a line at a grocery store and listen to everybody around you go, I this, I that, and it's generally not, what follows is generally not something that's serving them. They're unaware of it, and they're unaware that every time they do that, they keep putting on this, you know, this blanket, this reoccurring pattern. Most definitely, most people are reaffirming that which they don't want, and they're not even aware that they're doing it. And so what I find is the basic step is just getting somebody to have that moment of awareness of what they are saying and how they are thinking. And if you can get them into that gap, into just being aware.
Oh, I think we've lost you for a second. You still there?
Supportive.
Sorry, could you just say the last couple of sentences again, please? We lost you for a few seconds.
Sure. Let's see, I don't know where you lost me, but it becomes easier once somebody has become aware of the pattern of their thought, to shift that into something that's actually serving them. What helped me was kind of this process that I created, and pardon my French, but I call it the shit, shift, and list process. And basically, when you're in this non-productive thought process and you're spiraling down into the I'm stressed out, I'm so upset, I'm this, I'm that, blah, blah. Once you catch yourself, you go, oh shit, I'm in the spiral downward turn. So you actually become aware. And it's the awareness that is the key to making the change. And so once you can do that, then you can go, oh no, this is what I don't want, right? So then we go into the contrast. This is what I've identified that I don't want anymore. What do I want? And you bounce it, and you consciously focus your thoughts and your speech and your language on that which you do want. And the easiest thing for most people to do is to go straight into gratitude, because going into a vibration of gratitude is where you make, you know, the most profound change in your reality.
So could you possibly think about it as what people do by default is reverse manifestation? They don't want something, but they actually manifest the thing they don't want. So that's why I think I call it reverse manifestation.
Yes, that's actually a great way to say it. We see that all the time in infinite health, in our integrative medicine practice. We have, you know, multiple patients come in and they're so focused on their disease process. You'd think it was a pet that they owned, right? My diabetes, my hypogonadism, my illness, my whatever it is, right? And so every time they speak that and they own it, they just kind of compound that problem. So absolutely, that's a prime example of a reverse.
And it's almost like it's on their, I was reading something about this today, but it's like it's on their internal screen, or they're reconnecting with it, like you were saying, to sort of give it more energy.
You
Pulse,
do.
pulse, pulse. Here you go, more energy, keep feeding it. It's like a balloon, it like blows up. Trying to make a shape of a balloon.
Exactly. They just keep layering that affirmation. I mean, I think about, I kind of visualize it like a cloak that you're putting on yourself or you're putting on another person when you know, if you say, I am stressed, well, you've just put on this cloak of stress. You've just embraced yourself more fully in that. You can do the same for another person. If you say that that person is toxic, well, you've just put a cloak of toxicity on that person, when in fact you could reverse that and go, I am healed, I am whole. And that's when you begin to put the cloak of wholeness and the cloak of healing on, or you begin to see that person and speak about that other person in the light that you wish they would be. Maybe that's not how they're showing up right now, but you desire that person to be more loving. Then you can say, I'm so thankful and grateful that person is so loving. Then you actually put on that cloak of a more loving benefit personality, and it brings you closer to that which you desire. So
it is amazing.
Sorry.
It is amazing how you know, through, you know, I did well with the Daoist arts, they see words in the ancient, also like in paganism as well. You see words are magic, and then with NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and psychology, there is this amazing thing that to get is that words have power. The words you use have power, and you know, they have power to other people. They have power, and they have power to yourself. I mean, you've only got to think of the most famous and powerful people who have said, you know, speeches. You know, Winston Churchill. I'm trying to think.
Martin Luther King.
right.
That was who I was trying to think of. That's the most powerful one.
I have a dream.
Yeah, but you know, it's that magic. It's that because you're talking about something that technically everybody does, but something that, you know, everybody dreams. But also there's so many metaphors of that. Is the dream? I have this, rather than I have a vision. It's I have a dream. We have a lot of people would see dreams more, or at least you say dream, not nightmare. Dreams, right. You're talking about something pleasant. So you're talking about this certain goal, and the words you use dictate your emotions and dictate your actions. And there's this interesting thing in Taoism, and also of attraction is, or one of the things people realize with law of attraction is in Taoism is everything's the three ones: mind, body, and spirit. So so when you say something, it means nothing unless there's emotion behind it. Like, you know, if I say spiders to one person, doesn't mean anything. To another person, it'll be where if they're scared of spiders. And that activation of emotion, you know, brings in a physical reaction within their body. But people think of phobias and understand that, but do not understand that everything you say affects you and affects other people emotionally and spiritually, inspirationally.
I have a question leading on from that, actually, quite interestingly, is that do you find it's not just the individual that needs to change, but who they're around can because the person has given away their power by listening to other people, that you first have to get them to reclaim that energy first? Or can you shift them without having them to do that?
Well, when a person starts raising their energetic vibration, the natural default to that will be either the people around them will raise with them, or those people will have to fall away from them. They won't be on the same page anymore. when a person begins to be more mindful and aware of what they're thinking and what they're speaking and what foods they're putting into their body and how they treat other people and how they treat themselves and reclaiming their power, their environment will either, it can't stay the same. There will be a shift. And it will be, again, either the people will raise up with them or those people will fall away. And I think people need to understand that that's okay. It's okay for that sphere of people to shift and change so that you are continuing to evolve and grow and step into that desire that you have for yourself.
Is that the biggest stumbling block you find, the fear of change, because of the way that we define success?
Fear of change is a big factor. You know, I relate most of these things back to what I see in our practice, but there's a fear of change, which is one thing, and then there's kind of an apathy, or not really a fear, but more of a unwillingness to put the new effort, the new energy into the program in order to get a different result. I see a lot of people who are stuck in a cycle of insanity, right? I'm going to keep...
Apathy, would that be the word?
Yeah, apathy. Keep doing the same thing that they've always done and expecting a different result.
I think that's a big problem with the law of attraction as well. I think the way that the law of attraction is built is like, you know, you think a certain reality and it becomes true, and that is true to a certain degree. But if you want a different reality, your reality has to change for you to have that different reality. And if exactly. But it's the old saying, birds of a feather flock together. You gravitate to those who are of the same thought patterns as yourself. If you're going to change your thought patterns, the people that are around you are going to change. They're just going to, because it doesn't resonate anymore. It just doesn't. It doesn't vibrate together anymore. Yeah. Sorry.
Right. I've actually offended people by that because I myself, in seeking more abundance and being on what, my goals and what they are, when I look around at where I'm spending, my time, are those other people bringing an energy that serves me? And if not, love you, mean it. But I've got to be very deliberate in where I'm willing to give my energy away. And I think a lot of people don't, they grew up with somebody. They don't want to let that relationship go, or it's comfortable, or they feel bad for somebody. And that's all sweet and all, but that person, you're in charge of your life. Nobody else is responsible for making you happy. Nobody else is responsible for helping you step into, your power. It's your job to do that. And if other people have to fall away, you have to let them go and know that it's okay. So we see that in, I've had several friends here recently go through divorces and receive the blame and the shame. And I can't believe you left your husband or wife or whatever. But I think society needs to understand that's okay. Because you've got one spouse that is continuing to delve and grow and, improve and look into different things and become expand their mind. And the other spouse isn't willing to rise up with them, they have to fall away. And I think everybody needs to cut everybody some slack and just know that it's okay. It's good enough.
I've actually offended people with this. I have said, you have to do what's right for you, and people don't like that because they think, that's being selfish. No, you have to fill your cup first, or your bowl. Once you're filled, then you can help others, because if you don't fill yours and you leave yours empty, you can't help others. If you'll burn out yourself, whether this is healing, whether this is teaching, whether it's just living, you have to first fill your own cup. And if you're not full, if you're not overflowing yourself, then there is nothing to help others with. So it's not about being selfish. It's about, you know, you growing. And another thing I've offended people by saying, funny enough, is there is no good or bad. There just is. So when a relationship, things end. You know, things are born, things are created, things die, things end. It's the natural path of the universe. It's the natural flow of the universe. It's the yin and the yang. Unfortunately, no eyebrows from Chris because I can't find my warhammer. But the
keep the warhammer down. We don't need the warhammer.
No, I do need the warhammer. I must have the warhammer.
Step away from the warhammer.
Anyway, very, very quickly, we will just say we also have another co-host has appeared. It is the mighty Savoy. Good evening, Savoy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. I love the background. Very black. It's
background. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, awesome background. I need that background. But what we'll do, we'll continue, and as always, Savoy, you know, when you have a question, let us know and jump straight in. So, yeah, I think Chris had another question.
Yeah, is that the price of free will? Is the taking responsibility for the actions of what you manifest effectively within your life?
Well, I mean, you're operating in free will all the time. It's just, are you choosing to hold on to your power? Or are you choosing to give it away to other people? Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think people don't honor their free will the way that they could. We give our power away all the time, and we're trained to do that as children, right? I mean, we have to when we're young because we don't know what's proper and what's safe, and so we learn to give our power away to our parents, which is not a bad thing. It's appropriate. But then we go to school and we're giving our power away to teachers and principals. Next thing you know, you're in peer groups. You're giving your power away to your peers. Then you're dating. You're giving your power away to that person that's supposed to fulfill your heart, right? And then you go to work. You're giving your power away to the boss. And you know what? Anything that has control over you, it might be smoking, it might be TV, it might be somebody else's opinion. We give our power away multiple times a day, all the time, and don't even think twice about it. So my call to action is take your power back, people. I mean, if you want to give it away to somebody else, at least be aware that that's what you're doing and be okay with it.
Yeah, I think being informed is half the battle. It's realizing that you have power. Right. Realizing that you're a sovereign being. I think that should be fundamental teachings for our kids. That should be some of the first teachings. But we disembowel our kids. It's more an indoctrination. And it goes back to talking about different kinds of learning establishments as well, because not all learning establishments do that. There are certain ones that do empower and that do bring you to you are. I'm not singling out anybody as far as judging them is concerned. It's just the way it's systemic. It's the way that it's set up. It's about, the moneyed people, the moneyed class are from day one are told you are powerful, you are a ruler, you are a king, you are an emperor, you are the ruling class, you are the elite. They're told this from an early age throughout their whole education. And then the other ones, the unwashed mass, of which I was one, are more indoctrinated into behave, obey, agree,
follow
and
the rules.
Just get on with those are the rules. You follow the rules. You're a follower of these rules, and that's it. And what happens with those people who are taught that from an early age? They have such a deep belief system that they are rulers, that just their countenance, just the way that they hold themselves is with command, which we should be teaching all kids. And if we taught all kids that from an early age, the whole paradigm would shift completely. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, because when some people say that, that's a conspiracy theory. But I've taught at private schools, and I know they teach in a totally different way. it is
We've lost Boggie, have we?
What's that?
I think so.
What's happening?
and I'm back, but I will be. So, can you hear me okay still?
Can hear
Yeah.
you now.
Right, cool. Yeah, so yes, I know I've had students, and yes, you know it. They are far more confident. They are far more, you know, they get things done, and it's because they were taught in a way that encouraged this way. So, Robbie or Chris or Savoy, another question.
Savoy.
Well, Robbie or Chris.
This is a game of pass the parcel. I'll open my parcel. So, when you're actually with someone, what is it you have to say? One word, one sentence? Is it a whole session? Is it a series of sessions? How long does it take to shift someone's perspective?
I found that it takes about 6 consecutive sessions. And my sessions are generally 50 to 60 minutes long. I go into them with the client actually sets the intention for the session of what he or she is wanting to get out of that, and then we just go from there. And it's a very intuitive process. I mean, there's kind of an agenda, you know, to stay on track, but it's kind of like this show. It's bouncing kind of like this and just going through whatever is needed at the moment to show up.
So, what I find the hardest when I'm talking to someone is I can see that they need that shift, and it's like, so I say a few little words to help them along, but they have to want to change. You can't do it for them.
Oh, absolutely. I can't work with somebody who already knows everything. I mean, obviously we're intuitive, infinite beings in a body, so we do all know things already. We just don't know how to access it. But for the person that's showing up completely resistant to hearing anything or knows it all already, yeah, I mean, I can't work with that person. It's not going to be an efficient use of either one of our times. So absolutely, they have to A, recognize there's an issue that maybe they need a different perspective on, B, be open to the message. But the way I work is not to tell somebody, well, you need this or you need that. It's more of guiding them to come to their own conclusion, right? They have the power. It's their deal.
I never come at it like saying, oh, this is what it is. You just need to go from A to B and everything will be rosy, because it doesn't work that way.
That's not healing or helpful for anybody.
So when you're talking with someone, I had this question and it's gone. How frustrating. Okay. So when somebody is shifting their perspective, is it something you can see visually in their eyes, or what is it that you know has changed about them and you know that it's worked?
So I have a client that I've been working with, and it's been just watching her transition, just of how she approaches problems every day, how she approaches her relationships that she was struggling with. She herself has gone from not asking questions, right? Because that's how we get the answers. We ask the questions. She herself came to me, and not being the person who would ask, introspective questions, to sitting in a session with me and going, well, so then I started asking myself this, and then I started asking myself that. That is when I know, oh my God, this is awesome. You almost don't need me anymore at all, because if you know enough to ask those questions, then you've already got your answers. So yeah, it is. That's kind of like the light bulb.
That is so awesome. That must be a great experience when that happens.
Yes, yeah, it is. Because I really didn't have a client a client should not be attached to me for very long. If I'm doing what, you know, what my goal is, then I'm giving them back their power. So eventually they should, you know, feel confident in themselves and trust themselves. I mean, I have a lot of clients who just don't trust their own guidance. And so once somebody's able to do that, you know, okay, little bird, go away, fly on. So, yeah.
I think that's a really important thing. Sorry, Boggie, do you want to go?
I was just going to say, and that's, well, for me, that key, I mean, I use certain words, or that key is, you know, when they start asking the questions, you sort of know, whether you call it monkey mind or ego, you sort of know that's got out of the way, because it's allowing them to actually see their own problems and their own solutions. You know, the Daoist saying, or Boggie saying is, you are your own Sifu. You know, you are, you know, you should be your own muse, your own observer. Here to point the finger in the right direction. Everybody is everybody else's Sifu, you know. And, you know, there's something somebody can say that will trigger something, and that's what we're here for. That's, at least that's what I'm here for. That's my point. But yeah, it's very cool. Boy or Chris?
I think we've done a lot of talking about sort of the contemporary things that you're working on, but maybe how did you get from where you started out to where you are now? What was that journey like?
What was the catalyst?
Yeah, and what were the emotions that you were going through?
Yeah, well, I basically decided it was probably not a good idea to kill somebody. Long and short,
was the best choice in my experience.
No, I'm claiming the 5th, or is it the 6th? Whatever it is, I'm claiming it. So no comment. Sorry, please continue.
Oh yeah. So my husband is a medical oncologist and hematologist, and
cool.
No worries. He had joined a partnership of other physicians, and you know, the signs were there from the get-go that this probably wasn't in his highest favor, but ignoring all the signs, because we were the kind of people who were like the fish that go against the water. You're not really moving unless you're struggling. That's kind of how we had approached our lives for the bulk of it. And so ignored the signs, and then ultimately that partnership blew up, and it was like a really bad, ugly divorce. And it took us from being very financially well off to near nigh bankruptcy in just like overnight. And at the time, I had identified one person in particular as the reason for my life now sucking. And I was very depressed and very angry. And there was a show on TV at the time called Revenge. And it was, you know, it was a stupid show, mindless. But I had gotten into this habit of grabbing a bottle of Chardonnay and turning on this dumb show. And one night I realized that I wasn't really watching this show for mindless entertainment. I was watching it and taking notes. That's how angry I was. But I'm smart enough to know, Confucius say, when you go to dig a grave, dig two. Because I have a logical side that's all, you know, was at war with the emotional side. And so when I saw that, I was like, well, I can't live like this. I can't be this person. So I turned the show off, never watched it again. And then shortly after that, I came across a Dyer quote that said, we are not physical beings in a spiritual body. We're spiritual beings in a physical body. Now, having been raised in church, you know, kind of knew that from the traditional religious perspective, but in that moment, it was a very epiphany statement, an awareness. And I'm like, wait a minute, you know, so that just kind of opened up a seeker, the seeker aspect of me, and started just consuming all the Dyer books, all the Louise Hay books, you know, Emmanuel Dagger, Teal Swan, like just eating it. And next thing I know, I'm in a law of attraction coaching program by Abraham Hicks. I don't even know how or why I signed up, but I'm in it. I get through it. And then the path just continued from there. And so I eventually, you know, became comfortable not seeking anymore, right? Looking outside myself for the answers. But then there was that moment where I'm like, I don't need other, you know, everything else outside of me, that I am. And that's when I really started coaching and kind of came to this perspective, well, I am that I am, and so are you.
So very early on, you'd externalized all your problems. All your problems were this, it was that, it was this person, it was this object, it was this situation. And
right. That's how I was raised, right? So I was on that perpetual wheel. But somebody had to break that cycle, so.
Okay, that's so cool. It's very interesting that those self-help books, that you devoured those, and then you've ended up more or less doing what those people have done before you, if you like, and sort of taken that message. I'm going to use the word evangelized, but you know what I'm trying to say. You've taken it and made it your own message.
Right. Yeah, it took a couple of years, but now I feel confident helping other people get to that same point, because I was a stressed out mess, you know, and so I know everybody, you know, people around me, people that come into our practice are looking at their problems from that same externalized perspective. And that just doesn't get you where we all want to go.
I think the secret to understanding is most people are stressed out messes, but in themselves, they don't see everybody else's stressed out mess. It's like that thing of like people worry what other people think. People are too busy worrying about themselves and about what to actually worry about what you're thinking. But we live in this, you know, this is what in Buddhism and Taoism, monkey mind ego, this is part of the monkey, which it's telling you, oh, you should be worrying about this. What about what your mum thinks, or your dad, or your great auntie Bessie, or you know, or Father Mackenzie, you know, and you're always worrying, you're running around the hamster wheel worrying about all these problems, not actually doing what you're supposed to do in life. The secret to life is to live it, to enjoy it, to actually, you know, be. When we was a child, we actually enjoyed life. We enjoyed, but then as we grew up, we looked at adults and saw, oh, you know, that's what adults are supposed to be. You're supposed to be this, and you're supposed to be that. But most people are not actually having fun.
No,
because you do. And that's important.
I was at
Isn't it?
Yeah, I was at an event, and it was kind of like a group of people who I know, and it was like, oh, it's a treehouse. It would be so much fun if we could go over there and climb on it. I said it's okay to have fun, so that's what we did. We went over and we climbed on the treehouse, and everyone had a great time.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I myself don't have nearly as much fun as I should. I'm always on the hunt for fun. I'm open to receiving more and more fun, for sure.
Yeah, secret to life. Yeah. Secret
Okay,
to
your indeed.
Sorry?
Indeed. So your mission over the next 7 days is to find a treehouse.
Choose to accept it.
And go and play in the treehouse. That is your mission from this show. If you choose to accept it, find yourself a treehouse.
Okay.
And law of attraction. Law of attraction. Okay, well, find your version of fun, and like, you know,
spa or something for sure. I'll find a day spa.
Yeah.
7 days. I'll be like, I'm sorry, everybody. I gotta go to the day spa. I gotta go have fun.
a day spa, day spa, and a tree house. I think you're being a little bit picky there.
Now's the time to talk about warhammers.
Exactly. It's completely subjective, eh? Oh,
You're right.
Yeah. See you later, Bobby. And he goes, yes, but yeah, it's true. Everything is subjective. You know, it is figuring out. That's an important thing, though, really, is figuring out what your fun is. Because what you've been doing for fun, is that really fun? You know, a lot of people, you sort of said about that show, you know, you was watching that show and that was a stress relief and, you know, that something to do was, you know, was that fun? You know, that's the point. Are you doing something that you actually honestly enjoy? Obviously we've got, you know, there are things in life you have to do, but the things that you call pleasure, are you actually enjoying them?
Right.
But hey,
yes.
What do I know?
Yeah.
Or
right.
brainwashing yourself. Or are
Sorry,
you
Sifuboggie?
Can you hear me?
You're very quiet. So, did you say
Can
brainwashing?
you hear me now?
As long as you don't do that, yes.
Okay. Or are you brainwashing yourself into negative actions, negative thoughts, negative patterns?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people, they're just not aware. It goes back to that awareness. You've taken on what you were raised with your parents. If you had a critical mother and a condescending father, chances are you've taken on that pattern of behavior and you're stuck in that until you recognize, hey, I actually don't have to be critical like my mother was. I actually don't have to be condescending like my father was. I can actually choose to be a different person. But again, it's that, you know, and for me, it had to be a very catalytic, very hard smack in the face to be like, hey, you stop that. That's not who you want to be. And unfortunately, a lot of us are like that. Something's got to smack us into awareness. So it's just a matter of making the choice to be a different person, to be a better person, to pursue your fun, your happiness, your joy, your peace.
Because that's what I find interesting. You know, like you were talking about the parents, or let's say our peers, people we grow up with. In doubt, I'll say that a lot. Sherry is partly Daoist. In Daoism, you know, they talk about the whispers, the ghosts in your head, and these are, you know, people you've grown up with, and you know, these are put in NLP, certain programs that have been initiated, activated.
Right.
We shouldn't do that. And of course, in our society, when you say, oh, you know, the voices in your head, people, oh, I'm not mad, I'm not crazy, but we all have voices in our head. We all have, or at least have people that are directing. We have certain things that we think. Maybe not a voice, it's a thought, but we have thoughts that dictate certain things. And the interesting thing in what I do is that the first thing you need to do is be aware of it. You have to be aware of that thought to be able to change it, because you can't change what you're not aware of. Right. Does that make sense? Is that something?
Becoming aware that's the key, right? That's the key. Of course, you know, sometimes when I'm coaching somebody, I'll bring something to their attention and they're like, oh, right. And I'm like, okay, well, now you know. So now you're aware, and you cannot now go be unaware. So next time it's on you, right? So.
Very much so, yeah. Chris or Savoy, go.
So can you explain to me what you do again? Because I read it, but I wasn't here for the beginning. So could I get a little bit of an explanation?
An explanation of the what?
Of what you do?
Oh, right. So, yeah, so in addition to being a practice administrator for an integrative health center, I do empowerment life coaching. So it's life coaching with the premise that there's a spiritual solution for every physical problem, and delving into the root and clearing those, you know, paternal patterns, and identifying the places where people are giving their power away, and you know, just educating them and giving them the option that you can actually take your power back, and you don't actually have to settle for, you know, how stuck you think you are, because you're actually not stuck. That's an illusion. That's basically the focus. So I find a lot of people, at least kind of in my, what's attracted to me, are the people that feel stuck, the people who are lonely in love, the people who, you know, they feel like it's appropriate, or they're stuck in a martyrdom almost, where, you know, you have to give to everybody else first, or you're a bad mother, or you're a bad wife. And
could it also be, this is my life, this is how the world works, this is it, boom.
Right. So I really work with people to, you know, to understand that it's okay to show yourself a little self-love every day. And it's okay to say no when you really want to say no, or say yes if you really want to say yes. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. So like I thought before, we're kind of in the same category.
Okay, cool.
So I have a quick question, unless Savoy has another one. Okay, no, I think I'm getting the wave to proceed. So one of the first things, do you have to like teach people how to relax so they've got the space and the capacity to get the self-realization they need?
A lot.
That's like one of the...
Absolutely. A lot of times, I mean, in our practice at Infinite Health, we, you know, that's definitely one of the homeworks that we give. We work a lot with binaural beats to help people shift their waves into a theta wave, definitely, and guided meditation. It's so important, and those breathing techniques. Absolutely. I mean, people, particularly, you know, in my realm over here, they don't think about doing that. And so we've brought that awareness to this area.
Cool. And talking about stress, because it's one of my favorite things to talk about. It sounds really weird, but there we go. Could you talk about food and stress and your understanding of that?
Oh, you know, I wish my husband were on here, because he could talk for days about the food and the stress. And, you know, food is really not complicated. I think people overcomplicate it. Diet programs overcomplicate it. Yeah, it's a very simple thing to change. You know, if it doesn't die and it doesn't go bad, chances are you shouldn't put it in your body. You know, single ingredient, whole food. It doesn't require that much thought. If we ate like that, we would definitely, you know, we'd probably see the elimination of ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression. A lot of the health issues that we experience today would be mitigated, definitely, if we were more mindful about what we put into our body.
Yeah, the old Daoist saying is that if it doesn't rot, it's probably not good for you.
Right.
It's quite simply. So yeah, you know, like fresh food, and you know, it's funny, we sort of like grow up, oh, you know, make sure, you know, your kids have got, you know, good food, and make sure the kids are healthy. But you're a kid, you know, you're still growing. You're a growing boy or girl. You know, you still, you know, you're important. And it's, you know, I was, and I've done through the martial arts. I studied, or part of my studies, I did food nutrition. And it's really, really interesting how certain vitamins and minerals are related to brain function and body function, and you know, certain things do. And so, you know, yeah, you know, food is actually really important, but it's also important how you eat it, and which is a big, the way you chew your food. And one of the things I learned on medical case studies, or when I did AMP, which was the fact that when they actually look at the internal organs, especially the colon and the intestine, that nowadays, when they actually did autopsies, what you see how the organs look in the medical books, most people's organs do not look like that, because there's so much junk, so much things that have been processed through those organs, and also the stress. You know, what people don't understand is when you're stressed, in Daoist terms, when you're stressed, the worst possible time to eat is if you're really upset or really stressed. You know, you should actually hold off of eating, because your body's processing all those emotions, which actually means the energy it takes for your body to actually process the food has been reduced. Also, like, you should actually not eat 4 hours before the latest you should eat is 4 hours before you go to sleep, for the same reason that if you eat and go straight to bed, your body tends to, apart from you're the wrong angle, unless you sleep standing up, you know, when you sleep laying down, the gravity isn't actually pulling it through the organs struggle to process that food. I could talk for years about this as well.
I am so doomed. I'm just deciding whether to have another rock cake, but there we go.
Have another rock cake. Go on, you know you want to, and climb a tree. But before we continue, I will be closing up this section soon, but before we continue, I have seen Agent 35. Yes, I am talking about the wonderful, the lovely, ever so clever Marilyn Devonish. Good evening, Marilyn. How are you?
Oh, good evening all. I'm fabulous. How are you?
All is good. All is good without the hood. Yes, so again, Marilyn, like Savoy, any questions? Because I don't know how much you've sort of picked up so far, but if you've got any questions, just jump in there and open house.
Well, I do have a question, actually. This might take you in a slightly different direction. I listened to a little segment earlier about sort of happiness and finding the things that are fun. And this might be a bit of a curveball question. However, one of the things that I have noticed, is when people have lost someone, in terms of they've died, they've passed away, or there's been a tragedy, people feel guilty about feeling happy. And they feel guilty about having fun and a good time. So I'd really like to hear your thoughts on that, and what suggestions you would have, and what you would say to people who are still alive. You know, you've still got your life to live. Somebody else is no longer here, but because they are the ones who are here, they deprive themselves of happiness. So I'd love to hear just a few thoughts on that, if that's okay.
Sure. I mean, this might sound somewhat, I think someone who's in that state right now might find what I'm about to say a bit insensitive. But the short and sweet of it is, you serve no one by being in guilt and shame. And I mean, grieving it's okay, grieve, but don't stay there, because that doesn't serve anybody. And as we all on this show know, death is an illusion. That energy doesn't die. And so the loved one that has passed is still with us, just in a different non-corporeal form. And so there's room to take comfort in that. You can still communicate with your loved ones and ask for signs, right? Ask for physical assurances that they're still hanging out, and engage in those dialogues, for one. The other one is grieve, but know that it's okay to have fun, that the person that has moved on in their experience would not want you grieving or feeling guilty or shame. I mean, those are lower vibrational energies. They serve absolutely no one. And the person on the other side isn't benefiting, because you're stuck in a martyrdom situation.
Does that not breed attachment, though, with those sort of sentiments? Attachment to the person who's passed?
By what? By looking for the signs and engaging in the dialogue? Or what?
Yeah, just basically clinging on rather than...
I don't know that that's clinging, I mean, you can go into clinging, but just, you know, my grandmother passed several years ago. We were never as close as I had wished we were. And from time to time, you know, I'm like, okay, well, my grandmother she was the light of the party. So I'm like, okay, confetti. If I hear the word confetti in some random place, and that's just the sign for me to know my grandmother's out there and still, you know, loves me. That doesn't mean that I'm not moving on with my life or open to love and relationships because she's moved on. So, I mean, yes, a person can very easily go into an attachment situation, and that's when, you know, that's when they're not moving past their grief. That's when they stay in martyrdom and they don't move into the acceptance that it's okay to smile and it's okay to have fun. I mean, you can love somebody forever without really being attached to them. So, is that helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I
Fantastic.
think it's
Thank
just
you.
common
Yeah, I've
sense.
never met you before, but I knew that you would have an interesting take on that question. So thank you very much for answering that. That's great.
Thank you for asking. I appreciated it.
Yeah, I'll throw a little. The interesting thing in Lao Tzu, who was a Daoist sage, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, which is probably one of the most famous books. It was said by another sage, Sun Tzu or Sun Tzu, said that when Lao Tzu's wife died, that he was seen days later playing music, and people said, oh, you know, how insensitive it is that you know, that he's already enjoying himself, and he was to have said that you know, his wife would have wanted him to be happy. His wife, you know, and she's still there, you know, in the essence of the spirits, you know, even in China, you know, they believe that everything is there all at the same time. Everything still exists. You know, just because you can't see it, you know, just because you can't see an atom doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because you can't see electricity doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And in essence, so things go out of phase, but they're still there. They're still in existence. And the point of is, you know, you need to, you know, it's all about loving that, you know, if it's a friend, you know, even when they've gone, they're still there, they're still with you. And that's a cool thing you said about, you know, like, you know, asking for signs. Again, in America, but for me in the UK, 20 years ago, you know, you saying that sort of thing, there would be certain people who would have said, oh, you're crazy. You know, you're crazy asking for, or talking to people that are not there, you're crazy. But everything is there. Everything can communicate. I know in Taoism, but also in American Indians, you know, they would talk to spirit. They would talk, you know, whether that was the eagle or their uncle or the river or the mountain, you know, is you talk and you communicate with spirit, and you ask. Interesting thing for those who love the whole law of attraction. If in psychology, if you think of a red sports car and you focus on that for a good 15 minutes and you do that once or twice in that day, for the next week you'll start seeing red sports cars, because your brain has activated certain things that will start allowing you to see that thing. So if you ask for signs, you will see something will happen that will give you, you know, will give you a sign. You'll be more aware, because it's all about awareness.
Right. Exactly.
Guys, another question? It's
close-up time, Boggie.
Oh, no, yeah. So it is close-up time for this hour. The wise sage, as the questioner, I am trying to get an eyebrow, and I have achieved my mission. The wise sage, that is called the questioner, has rightly said it is time to close up this hour. So those in podcast world, I hope you enjoyed the show. It has been a wild ride. There is part 2. Look out for it. So for now, it is from Marilyn and the questioner. I don't know if you want to put your mics on and say goodbye. They're waving.
Bye. See you in part 2.
Indeed, see you in part 2. And it's goodbye for now from the very lovely LeNae.
Goodbye. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. A pleasure. So take care. Look out for part 2. Bye for now. Jen from The Way of Conscious Mindfulness. And cut. We are still live, but what we'll do is in the podcast, it will be sectioned off to the next section. So if anybody wants a drink or a quick wee, a toilet break, go ahead.
Okay. Be right back.
So, oh no, so well, Chris has disappeared. Chris is just the ever so face of Chris. So is that okay for you so far, LeNae?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yes, I was.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to mute. I'm gonna stretch my legs. I'll be right back.
Yeah, cool. No worries.
Okay.
See you in a bit. Good evening, Marilyn. How are you doing, Agent 35?
I am fabulous, thank you. How are you?
I am good. Not dancing the night away tonight. No.
No, not tonight. But last week was just amazing. The Jacksons far exceeded my expectations. I knew they'd be good. They were brilliant. So I had a wonderful time.
Was it a group or is it some of the old actual Jacksons?
Because I said to my friend, I said, is this a tribute act or are you really talking about the Jackson 5 minus Michael? And she says, no, it's really the Jacksons. So it was all of the brothers. The only person missing, of course, was Michael. So it was the real deal. Awesome.
Yeah, because I remember, well, this is the 90s. I remember, and that was minus Michael as well. I remember seeing them in, I think it was Menorca. It was either Menorca or Mallorca, because obviously there's two. But yeah, I remember going there and seeing them. And yeah, well, this was 20 years ago, and they were really, were they still as dancing and doing all the moves?
I mean, of course they weren't back flipping or anything like that because they're probably older than me now. But yeah, they still had the moves. It was a full on show. It was just what I would have expected of the Jacksons.
What do you mean older than you? You're only in your 20s. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Smooth talking bar steward Boggie. So, yes, glad you enjoyed it. Glad you had a good time, and as always, it's awesome to see you on the show this week.
Why, thank you.
So Savoy, how are you doing, sir? How are things with you?
Things are going really well. I'm just getting some work done and enjoying the show. Like always, you know, get to talk to people, connect.
All right, I'm going to have to go, guys, because they're closing up. So I will have to speak to you later, basically, next week.
Oh, okay.
So have a great part 2, and I'll see you next week.
Chris, when are you back?
Tomorrow.
Do you want a lesson tomorrow, or you want or more Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, great. Let me message you tomorrow separately.
Okay, nice. Speak then. See you later. And he goes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
He's actually one of my students, Chris. I teach him Qigong, energy exercise, and I also teach him Reiki, and I also teach him Long Fu Wuxian, which is Dragon Dog Reiki, which is like Chinese Reiki. Yeah, he's actually one of my students, and he's one of my students as well. So it gets a bit confusing. And actually, yeah, so yeah, I could go on. But anyway, cool. So are we all done? We all done and dusted? We're all ready to go? Cool. Okay, so I'll just stick this down So 9:07. And we will start up again. We'll start. Just check on here. Right. Okay. So we will start again. 5, 4, 3, 2. Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, Nam Yoho Renge Kyo. And welcome to Conscious Mindfulness, Part 2. This is The Way of LeNae Goolsby, Part 2. Continue. If you've just come on and you're listening to part 2, what you doing, you fool? Go back and listen to part 1. Oh, hello. There's another code. So go and listen to part 1. A great show. It was a very cool show. A lot about emotions. A lot about what LeNae does, about life coaching, about the mind. It was a very interesting show. And then right near the end, the wonderful Agent 35 turned up. Corker of a question. Now, so far we have co-wives. Apparently we have Chris. He's back. We have Agent 35, aka Marilyn, and we have Savoy. Now, and of course, we have the wonderful LeNae back on the show. So, welcome back to part 2, everybody. Welcome back, LeNae, to part 2. I want to start off with a question. Well, on the actual on the show notes, the free, I always ask people for free topics, and one of the topics, the last topic, is empowered medicine. Now, we sort of hinted that at the end of part 1. So, is there, well, you know, when we talk about empowered medicine, what are we actually talking about, LeNae?
Sure. So, well, in the at Infinite Health, which is the integrative medicine practice that my husband is the physician and I'm the practice administrator, we have created an approach to healthcare that is 4 pillars, the 4 pillars approach to care. And the 4 pillars include the nutritional component, you know, the physical fitness component, metabolic and hormonal optimization, and then we have a proprietary coaching program, motivational program that we've developed, and that kind of ties those other 3 pillars together. And that program is the infinite laws to shift somebody's way of thinking, to set them up for success on what they say their goals for health are. And through this program that we've been doing for almost 2 years now, we've got a book that is in editing right now with Balboa Press, and it will be called Empowered Medicine. And basically, it's looking at 12 different laws as they relate to health, inspired by Bob Proctor's works. I think he had 11 laws. We've come out with 12 that are designed to go in tandem with somebody's healthcare goals. So empowered medicine is kind of what we've been talking about. It's about a person showing up for themselves, beginning to understand how their thoughts play into their beliefs, actions, patterns, habits, and how they can actually shift those thoughts to support them with their goals, and how the law of attraction is relevant to a better health and lifestyle and longevity. So it's a really cool program. What we found is that when the patient partners show up, invest the time, invest the energy required, because there's reading assignments, there's homework, there's processes. Those people are actually healing themselves of diabetes. They're getting off of medications, prescriptive medications, and their health is transforming. But the people who take that program even further are able to transcend not just their health, but also we're seeing them heal relationships. We're seeing them go from, you know, disability to self-employment, and we're seeing relationships like marriages repair themselves. We're seeing older single people dating again. So it you know, for the person who's willing to invest in themselves, it can be quite amazing. Oh, I can't hear you.
That's what.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
so yeah, that's really cool. So in essence, you know, it's this thing of self-empowerment, or the empowerment of realizing you have responsibility for your own well-being, your own health, your own life. Is that?
Yeah, it really is. It's a novel concept to a lot of people, especially over here, where, you know, a reactive approach to medicine is the prevailing approach to healthcare, right? So people show up, they wreck their bodies, they eat potato chips, they do whatever lazy things they've been doing for 40 years, and then wonder why they're in, you know, chronic states of disease processes. They go to the doctor, they expect the doctor to fix them with a prescription, and, you know, our doctors are trained to write prescriptions, and here you go, if this doesn't work, see me in a month or so, right? So what we are asking our patients to do is a complete reverse of what we've been trained, at least in America, to do. It's actually your responsibility. You've actually created, you know, your epigenetic state at this point. But the good news is we can actually reverse that, and here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, in the UK, it was about 20 years ago that they changed the way they diagnose patients. It was they changed it. It was all to do with being part of Europe, and the fact that our success rates weren't as high as Europe's. And so what they did is they didn't change the medicine, but they changed the way they deal with patients. And what they did was basically was the posh way of saying it was the aim was to deal with this the symptomology of the patient, meaning they find out the patient where it hurts. Now the interesting thing on that is that technically the body's nervous system, there were 5 main different nervous systems. Only 2 of them, if I remember right, only 2 of them actually deal with pain. So there are things that can happen, especially like in with your spine, especially, that you can have knee pain or ankle pain, or you can have neck pain or head pain, and it actually is related to something in your back, which what happened, you know, within medical philosophy. Originally, there was this philosophy that every part of your body is actually separate to everything else, and it wasn't until much later that they actually realized there is actually a system that's interconnected. So there's this interesting thing where we go to a doctor who's supposed to be a professional, and we ask them for help. Now there's a different mindset, is that only helps you if you're actually doing things to help yourself. And a barefoot doctor actually teaches you is that, yes, I can help, but the main emphasis is actually for you to learn about food, you learn about qigong, you do qigong exercises, you do a bit of meditation, and you do things for yourself, and a qigong or tai chi person is actually called a practitioner. And the reason they called a practitioner is because they're actually looking after their general, not saying they do brain surgery on themselves, that would be cool, but they look after themselves is actually the concern, or is actually the priority of the person, of you.
Exactly.
and then what happens is that, yes, if something major goes on, yes, you go and see a doctor. So in, you know, China, yes, you know, if you have major issues, you go and see hanging off. You don't go and see an acupuncturist. You will go, you know, you go to the doctor and have surgery. But, you know, on minor things, they actually, again, another thing they do in China, at least still in the main bulk of, not so much in cities, but definitely in the main bulk of China, there is this thing is that if you're not doing exercise every single day, whether that's qigong, whether that's Pilates or yoga, whether that's dancing or every single day, you are in the way of it. You will have to go on a longer waiting list. So what happens is, if you're not eating, you know, if you're not eating fresh fruit and veg every single day, and if you're not exercising every single day, in China, you will go, in England, you have like a national health, and you could wait 6 months for a certain operation. Where in China, if you're doing all these things, happen within a couple of weeks. But if you're not doing these things, you will have to wait longer, and you're penalized for not looking after yourself, because the doctors will have to do more work because you're not looking after yourself. So looking after yourself is actually important. And there's this other thing that in China, they mastered diet. If you want to call it diet, they mastered what they eat and how they eat it round about 200, well, some say about 1,000 years ago. But in China, which is not necessarily known, is that their cancer, people getting cancer in China, is 95% less than it is in countries in the West. It's 95% less. One of the reasons is they know what to eat and how they eat, and one of the other reasons is because they do daily exercise and they do daily things to maintain their health. So it's a big shocker, you know. It's one of those big things that cancer, but on general illnesses as well, that people are 95% less likely to get major illnesses in China than in the West. But we don't know that. We haven't been taught that. It's not a common thing. And a lot of that is to do with diet. A lot of it is what they eat and how they eat it.
Sure.
So Madeline, have you got a question or?
Yeah, there's a question that I have, and I don't know if this is maybe too specific, but I've been seeing a lot of talk recently about alkalized water. And so now Boggie's drinking some water. So alkalized water, in terms of your practice and what you're doing, is this something that you've come across? And if so, what are the benefits? And is it really something you can create at home with the right equipment?
You know, that's a great question. I would have to defer that to my husband, who's the doctor. I haven't really studied the alkaline water, so I could not give you an intelligent answer on that, but I'll definitely look into it and get back with you.
That's absolutely fine. Well, my next question, which you have already touched on, is do you believe that there are messages in illnesses, in terms of people get a particular illness and it has almost a spiritual message for them? Or are there times where an illness is just an illness and it's just random?
I don't think that illnesses are ever random. What I subscribe to is that things, you know, things are, the universe, if you will, is trying to get our attention. And it starts doing that in the etheric body. And so, you know, maybe we're not attuned to our etheric body. So we don't pay attention when we have an emotional crisis or a mental crisis. And the things that we need to deal with show up in the etheric body first, but because we're not paying attention, we ignore it. And our bodies love us so much that in an effort to get our attention, it manifests itself as an illness or a disease to say, hey, these are some issues you need to deal with. But from a spiritual perspective, by the time an illness is shown up in the body, it's not going to be, I mean, maybe For some people you can. I don't want to say anybody, but by the time an illness has shown up in the body, now you've got to address that illness on the physical, in the mental, in the emotional, and in the spiritual. So I don't believe illnesses are random. I think that it's like, hey, you remember this thing that happened when you were a kid and you were traumatized and you've been holding this unforgiveness maybe, or this grudge, or this pain, or this trauma. You've been holding on to it for so long, and we've been trying to get you to release it, but you haven't. Now the only way that your body knows how to get your attention is to show up in this way. But it's not at all to say that, oh, okay, go forgive somebody and all of a sudden you'll be physically healed. I mean, maybe there are cases where that's occurred, and I'm not saying it's not impossible. I think it would be irresponsible for me to just say, oh, we'll just go forgive your mom and you'll be healthy. So absolutely, by that point, you need to deal with it physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But it's like, you know, like Sifuboggie just said, the body is all interconnected. So you can't, you know, you have a pain in your elbow, it doesn't really mean that the root's in the elbow. It may be that that's in your spine. That same thought process goes for, you know, an illness or disease, that, you know, that's connected in your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual bodies as well. It all goes together.
Again, there's this interesting thing. One of the reasons why they suffer from a lot less from serious major illnesses is that there's far more. For my bell, I need something to put in my hand, and the lightsaber's over there. So it's far more important in Chinese medicine, and so not just Taoism, but in Chinese medicine in general, they pay far more attention to your aches and pains, to your little sniffles, to the little issues than, well, not that than they do to major problems, but there's far more where. But in West, if you say in England, especially if you say, oh, you know, I've got a bit of sore throat, or I get up in the morning and this twinges, a doctor will say, oh, that's just, I've heard, you know, I've had people say that their doctor said this, that you're just getting old. That's just general aches and pains. That's just, you know, oh, that's normal. That's nothing to worry about. Now, I'm not saying that in China, when you say, oh, I've got an ache, your doctor's going to go, oh my God. But what happens is that they know that is the, you were saying about your body talking to you. Your body talks to you all the time. Those little aches and pains are actually your body whispering. And right. It's just like the metaphysical side. The universe first whispers and you know, shows you a little sign, and if you don't see it, then the sign becomes bigger, and it becomes bigger until eventually the ancient one said that accidents and, you know, big catastrophes and accidents, just like illnesses, are the body or the universe shouting at you because you haven't been paying attention to all the whispering. So there's this thing of, and I'm learning, they call it bone setting, but it's either like a chiropractor or osteopath clicking the spine. There's me and I teach him qigong. He teaches me the great the back guy, aka Fred Bleach, and it is one of these things that if you wake up with an ache or pain in the morning, that's actually significant. And one of the interesting things with that is if you wake up feeling aching or stiff, that's actually telling you, doesn't mean you need to spend £1 billion on a new bed. All you need is get a couple blankets or a couple of duvets, a couple of covers, and take your bedsheet off, put one on the bed all the way up to the head end, put the bedsheet back on, and sleep on it the next night and see if you feel better. Because that aching is quite literally like, if I was to put an elastic band onto my wrist and left it there for a couple of hours, I'll start getting pins and needles because I'm cutting off circulation. So the aching, so if you wake up feeling aching, feeling a little bit stiff, that's actually the body telling you that the bed is cutting off your circulation. And it doesn't mean it's the way you're lying, because it doesn't matter whether you lie on your back, lie on your head, lie on your side, sleep hovering away from the bed, which is don't need a bed. But the whole point is that the body's circulation is being cut off. That's why you're actually being stiff and achy. It's just little things like that, little awarenesses. So, or if you drive, people driving the car, I feel stiff and achy. That's telling your car seat out, because you should actually be able to lay down for as many hours, or you should be able to sit in a chair without aching. If you're aching, it's telling you it's cutting off its circulation. I'm sorry, as you can tell, that's one of my favorite subjects. So, but yeah, it's this being aware. It's being aware of the body. Does that make sense to you, or is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, it makes sense. And I would just add that if your doctor is writing off stuff and telling you that's normal with the old age, that it might be time to find another doctor, because those little aches and pains don't have to come along with you as you age. Indeed.
Right, anybody got another question about this or something totally different? Savoy or Marilyn?
Savoy, if you have a question, go for it. If not, I have another question.
You always have a question. You are the female questioner. No, I think Savoy's frozen, maybe. I don't know. Oh, no, he moved.
Okay.
I'm frozen here. I don't even know if you guys can hear me yet. My computer is glitching a lot, so I'm going back and forth trying to delete things.
I think you said, can we hear you? I can just about, I don't know about LeNae, I can just about hear you. Did you have a question? Now you've gone all together. Now I can't hear you at all. Okay, Marilyn, while Savoy's sorting himself out, do you have a question?
I do, and this is now getting into it's coming up to summer, so it's holiday time, it's beach wear time, and what would you say would be, and maybe if it can be delving into some of your kind of the 12 laws that you talked about, what suggestions and advice would you have for the yo-yo dieters who will back on or even struggle to lose weight? Is there anything that you've come across in terms of your practice that would help people who struggle with weight as an issue? Because you mentioned the potato chips and all the things that people are doing. So are there some things in the laws that will help people with that aspect?
Yes. One of the very first processes that we get our patients to start thinking about is actually visualizing what their ideal health image is. What do you look like when you are in your optimized healthy state? How do you feel when you're in that optimized healthy state? What are the things that you would be doing if you were in that, optimized healthy state? And by going into that visualization process, it helps them gain clarity on what it is they want. From a health perspective, at our practice, there's 3 questions you have to ask yourself. What do you want? Why do you want it? And what are you willing to change to get it? And so that visualization process is kind of the first step on gaining clarity on your goal, your happy end result. That's kind of where we start. And then as far as yo-yo dieting, there's a couple of things that can be going on. It's not just what you're eating. Are you eating emotionally? Are you eating late at night? Are you not exercising? If you're over 30, man or woman, your optimal hormone levels start to decline. And so looking at that, because you can eat lettuce, you can go spinning on the spin bike till the cows come home. But if your hormones are out of line, then you're probably not going to get the results that you're looking for. And then again, are you keeping your thoughts on what you want, or are you constantly keeping your thoughts on, I hate my fat body, I wish I wasn't fat, I want to lose weight, right? Those are all negative self-talk that is not designed to get you to where you want. So you have to actually start engaging in a more loving dialogue with your body. How about you start loving who you are, where you are right now, and start actually blessing the body? You know, bless what you love about it, and changing that inner dialogue with the body and gaining clarity on your visualization is where I would start in that respect. Is that helpful? Okay.
That looks like a yes. That is, yeah. Okay, I'm a little bit. I'm intrigued. What are your 12 laws?
Oh, good question.
Sorry if I put you on the spot.
You have. I can get that for you in a moment. I want to get them right. I don't want to guess and be wrong. So let me see here. Okay. So the first law is success in health, the infinite law of success in health, the infinite law of thinking in health, which is kind of what we talked about, getting your thoughts focused on your happy end result. The infinite law of informed perspective, so there's your awareness. The infinite law of supply in health, which essentially states that if you want good health, it's already yours. The infinite law of attraction in health and how that works. The infinite law of receiving, the infinite law of increase, and then compensation, allowance, forgiveness, very important, sacrifice, and obedience. So those are, just off the cuff, the 12 laws that each of our patients are given handouts and homework centered around that as they go through their behavioral changes with their diet, behavioral changes with their workout, and then again with the metabolic and hormonal optimization.
Okay, I've got one more question before I, well, I know that Marilyn will have another question, but I've got one for you. I'm going to be a bit of a questioner for a change. So out of those laws, you say that your average client or patient struggles with the most to focus on or to obtain, to which is the one or two that they struggle with the most?
Sure. Yeah, I think because the concepts are so new to our patient base, getting somebody to think in a way that supports them can be kind of a struggle, because it's a completely new approach to what they've been used to the bulk of their life. The law of supply, which says the very fact that you desire a thing means that it's already available to you. I mean, in the Christian religious zone, that's called faith. You know, people say they have faith, but then I think they misunderstand what that means. Understanding that the fact that you desire a thing is it's your soul's way of saying, hey, you want this because it's already available for you, right? That's a complicated concept for a lot of people to grasp. So just off the top of my head, those are probably the two.
Yeah, because there is that thing of there were certain people say, if you've heard of the channel Bashar, one of the things Bashar says is that if it exists, it's meant to exist. So therefore, everything is possible, because if it wasn't possible, it wouldn't exist. So therefore, if you can think it, technically you can have it, you can achieve it. But we're in a society where, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and you have all those programs where slow you down and hinder you, and there's that. Well, did I say that today? I think it was part one. In part one, I sung the words San Qinjiao Su Wu Lian Jian Suin, which means the three pure ones. And the three pure ones in Taoism is unconditional love, gratitude and forgiveness. And it's that interesting thing, whether whatever it is, whether it's manifestation or even actually, you know, your health, is that love, you know, your body loves you. That's why it gives you, it tells you these things, and it tries to keep going. And even though we bombard our body with donuts and different and chemicals and all this rubbish, you know, we still keep ticking. We're like Timex. We just keep going. We just keep ticking. And we, you know, the interesting thing is that in the ancient knowledge in China, they talk about the ancient ones, and they talk the average lifespan was 250 years. And it's interesting where, you know, a lot of people think 80 years is a long time, but in China, even now, the average is about 110. So there's this interesting thing of you know, how long, you know, if we live to 70 and 80, say we 70 and 80, and that's somebody who's either smoked or, you know, had a lot of stress in their lives, a lot of problems in their lives. Imagine if you can let all that, here's us losing our PG rating, if you can let all that shit go, you know, if you can actually let that all go, imagine how long you can actually live. You know, if you do a little bit of exercise every single day, imagine how long you can live. If you go for foods, you know, a little bit that do actually rot, or, you know, you go for a little bit more fresh fruit and a bit of fresh food, and or even if you actually according to your area, because there's this interesting thing about, you know, eating certain foods do certain things in the body. So therefore, bananas are in very hot countries because bananas are actually what the Chinese would call is phlegm-producing food. So they create moisture. They create moisture for the body. But eating a banana in the middle of winter, or at least the UK winter, which is normally tends to be very cold and damp, would not necessarily be a good thing, because your body's already got cold and dampness around, and eating more or eating salads in the middle of winter wouldn't be a good idea for your body, because it's too much cool energy, and it's very cooling and lots of water, and you should actually have more, for at least in the UK winter tends to be, depending where you are. With Robbie up in Scotland, it's very, very, very cold, but in down south it's tends to be cold, wet and damp. Icy foods and to have the more drying foods will help balance that the body's needs. Your diet to your location is actually a pretty cool idea. So there's this thing of, if we just more balanced or a little bit more sensible, if that's possible, you'd actually live a longer life. But there's no point living a longer life unless you're going to enjoy that life and actually have fun and find your tree house or your spa, which is fun for you, and you know, and actually, you know, have a long life. And then, but if you're going to have a long life, you've got to enjoy it as well.
Exactly.
Indeed. But hey, what do I know? Marilyn, do you have a question? Do you have another question before I start rambling?
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about, because it's come up in conversation a lot, I've had several conversations with people about the thyroid, and it seems to be one of those little hidden illnesses that can have so many knock-on effects that appear to be other presenting problems. So I don't know, from your experience, are there any foods that you know of, or any, you know, spices, herbs, what have you, that are good things for naturally supporting the thyroid, so that people don't fall into the trap that I fell into many years ago of, number one, having it destroyed, and then being faced with having to take medication? Because it's one that I'm always saying to people, see what you can do naturally first before you allow yourself on that road. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that one whatsoever.
Sure. So you keep asking me medical questions. And I'm really more of the business person. So I feel like, oh, I wish my husband was here because he would be able to answer all of this for you. I could not give you advice on that. I know that thyroid issues are a big issue that we see in our practice. I know that we use bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and so we do recommend for, you know, case-by-case basis nature's thyroid as a supplement for that. As far as what specific foods would be beneficial, I could not even begin to guess.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question about business then. Now,
Okay.
in terms of the field that I'm in, let's just call it personal development, where there are lots of practitioners and coaches and therapists who are traditionally, and this is a mass generalization, but oftentimes business isn't their forte. So they are brilliant and amazing and fantastic at what they do. However, even asking for payment for that and having that business sense is a challenge. So if there's anything that you could share with people who are incredible in terms of their skills, but maybe could do with some business savvy tips, what would you say?
You know, I run into what you're talking about a lot. And I think that probably the first thing that comes to mind is that when you, as a spiritual coach or practitioner, are offering your services and you feel bad or guilty about allowing someone to pay you, you are actually not doing that person a service or yourself a service, because you're stopping the energy exchange. There must be a giving and receiving of the energy, and money is an energy. And you're worth the money. You're giving your information, you're giving your energy, you're giving your services. We live in a money world. It's appropriate and good to expect and to require that you be compensated because you, the practitioner, are worthy. And you're not, again, you're just not doing the other person any favors by I mean, yes, give your services away for free if you are guided to do so, without expecting compensation, without, you know, being mad or angry that that person didn't take it upon themselves to compensate you. But know that you are actually providing a blessing to that person by allowing them to give you compensation for what you've given them. That's the energy flow. And I think, you know, I think a lot of spiritual people, they're so altruistic. They have such a big heart and they want to give so much. I know my husband is this way. He'd give away house and home for his patients. God bless him. You know, I tell him, I'm like, you're Jesus and I'm not, and that's okay. You know, somebody had to keep Jesus in line, right? So if you're the kind of person that feels bad about that and you know that that's your weakness, at the very least, get yourself a partner who has the strengths, you know, who isn't afraid to say, okay, you know, pay up because this person over here is worth it. So either understand that it's appropriate and it's good and it's safe and it's okay to ask to be compensated for your services, or get yourself a partner who can do that for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, for that is, especially, you know, people doing healing work and like the spiritual stuff. There is, I've had this in different ways. I used to hire a hall to teach like Tai Chi and Qigong, and it would be like in a church, and then I'd get people saying, "Oh, it should be free." It's no, I hire that hall. You know, that hall, the church is not giving it to me for free. I pay for it. You know, I'm paying for the hire of that hall. And it is this weird thing. We pay for food, and obviously we pay our rent, we pay for certain things, and then suddenly, like everything goes all topsy-turvy on certain things, we start saying, oh no, you shouldn't pay for this, or you shouldn't pay for that. Oh, that's spiritual. You shouldn't pay for that. But everything of energy, hence why we call money currency. You know, everything it's a give and take, and you know, they're be a balance, like this. There's a transference of conversation here, you know. You know, if it's too one-sided, it will overtopple, it will become boring. So there has to be a give and take, and yeah, you know, you should for services, but I do understand that a lot, because there are certain people who come to me and they'll say, oh, you know, they expect it, and it's like, well, you know, there are things I give away, there are things I'll happily do, I'll happily talk to you, but if you want my services, you know, is a barefoot doctor in the days of the barefoot doctor, or even now, is that they go from place to place, but the village would, they would feed them and clothe him, they would do whatever and that's his payment, but that's still a payment, that's still a transference of energy.
Well, I've also found, you know, that people who aren't willing to invest in themselves, particularly on a financial level, are not particularly motivated to show up for themselves, you know, in the medical practice or even in a coaching practice. People, if you don't value your services, then the recipient's not going to value your services either.
I agree. Okay, any other questions?
I'm just sorry, I have myself muted so there's no noise. I'm really intrigued about the book, so I just wanted to ask, when is the book going to, are you still writing it, and when is it, if you are, when is it going to be available?
Thank you for asking. Actually, it's in its final copy editing with Balboa Press, so I think the next step for us is going through an aesthetic editing process. I think we're on track. I'm visualizing that book coming out by Christmas. I don't think I'm jumping the gun by saying that. So definitely December, January is when it should be coming out.
I've just been thinking, I was trying to rack my brains because for about the thyroid. Obviously, go and see a medical practitioner, and don't overdose on these things. But if I remember rightly, if your thyroid issues, things that will help is fish, obviously, soy. What's the other ones? Whole grains. Seaweed is a very good, because the iodine in seaweed is very, very good one. It's pulses and beans, I think, as well. So, but you know, Google is your friend. Look these of course, do not over. You know, I'm not saying that instead of taking medicine for your thyroid, you should go and live off beans, nuts, soy, and fish. I am not saying that, but being aware of these things, being aware that these things can affect your diet, important. So yes, so we've talked about but well, actually, it's almost time to wrap up. So, are there any questions, or LeNae, is there anything you would like to Is there anything we haven't approached yet that you would like to talk about?
I think we've talked about my topics. I did want to ask you a question, though, because somebody else asked you a question, and I was curious what the answer would be. What is mindful consciousness redundant?
Yes, there is my good friend Stephen Russell, the barefoot doctor. He's around. He's around Spain somewhere now, but yes, he was saying about the terminology of mindful consciousness. Well, mindfulness, you know, is to be focused on your consciousness. Being mindful is being aware that you are conscious, you are alive. Is it redundant? Well, you know, things are both existing and non-existent. I think I'm going off on a tangent here, so you may have to slap me back if I am. But things are both existing and non-existing. In the concept of the Tao, it's all about balance. Is maybe one of my favorite words. Maybe it is a little bit of an oxymoron. It is, you know, being mindful about your consciousness, being aware that you are conscious, being aware that everything is conscious, that everything technically is alive. I could go on to about quantum physics and how quantum physics have actually said atoms appear to be conscious. They appear to be as. What, Savoy, are you saying you like what I'm saying? Or give me a thumbs up or thumbs down? Yes, everything is conscious. Everything is aware. Everything is alive. Everything is talking to you. And everything is you. So is it redundant? Well, it is what you believe is true. Does that answer your question? Yes, it does. I am the Riddler. I am what I am. It's a fun. It's the whole point of this show. It's all about knowledge. It's all about gaining stuff. It's all about that. You can pick things up from everywhere, and you know, it's like I've learned. Every show I learn something. Every show I remember something. Every show, you know, there is something else for me to go. At least for me, that's what this show is about. So, is it redundant? No, it isn't redundant because consciousness is everything. Should you be mindful? I think you should, because if you're not mindful, then you're disease. That's why you fall apart. That's why things go wrong. So, being mindful about your consciousness. Definitely not redundant.
Good answer.
I could be making it up as I go along. So it's a answer. I'm not sure it's a good answer. But anyway, oh then you're the expert if you say so. And guys, have you got any other questions or anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up? I'll take that as a no. Oh no, yes.
For me, I'm just, you know, in terms of the 12 laws, I am intrigued about those. And it's kind of like you've got the 12 laws. Number one, where did they come from? You know, sometimes people say, oh my goodness, it's an evolution of their work. For other people, they say almost it was as though channeled might not quite be the right word, but it's as though they just have this download. So when you were, you know, with regards to the 12 laws, what was the inspiration behind those and how did you formulate them?
So the initial seed was planted by Bob Proctor and Mary Morris.
I think we're okay. All good.
Working with the laws.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So Madeleine's question, because my computer just died, so we're still live as far as I'm aware. So Madeleine's question, please continue. Sorry.
Okay. So this program it was like an online coaching program, I think, by Bob Proctor and Mary Morris, called Working with the Laws, and that's kind of where the seed was. But what we've done is we were like, well, okay, so here's the laws, and you know, people like Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and have taken these kind of thought processes that come from Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and applied them to success, business success, life success. But what we hadn't seen yet was somebody take those same concepts and apply them to optimized health and longevity. So, so those are the kind of the names that inspired the work. And then because we're in medicine, it's how we think. We were like, well, how do we take these concepts that people have been using for, hundreds of years and in the success realms of business, and apply them into a health conscious, focused effort. And so that's really what birthed empowered medicine.
Wonderful, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. I can't hear anybody else.
Well, as Sifu might have fallen off the line, one more question for you. What is next for you? So the book is going to be kind of towards the end of this year, and I presume that's been a big part of, you know, where your thinking and time and energy has been. So what's next then for yourself and your husband and for your practice? Where do you go from here? What do you envision for the future?
Sure. So we just started an expanded site. So our core site was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and about 12 months ago, we opened up a second site in New Orleans, Louisiana. And so we're building that up. And then ideally, we would go into additional expansions. My goal is to have a practice by the beach. So I'm hoping to work along the coastline there. The book coming out, we'd like to also develop that into an empowered medicine coaching program as well, to reach a larger audience and have a bigger impact. As for my personal work, I'm also working on a book focused on helping people create calm out of chaos, right? So recenter and focus on a little more self-love. I'm a couple of chapters, I'm still writing that one, a couple of chapters from being done on that, and also from developing an online coaching program out of that. So those are kind of the main projects. There's always a project.
So I know that feeling, and one of the things I was going to ask, and you kind of sort of maybe answered it there a little bit. I know in my line of work, I started off with pretty much 100% of what I did, 90% of what I did was face-to-face. And now, as we've got more technology, I would say 90% of what I do is online, telephone, Skype, using the kind of great technology we've got now. So when you're working with your clients, are they on-site clients, or do you also work with people remotely and globally?
I do work with, I find that the people who are in a local sphere prefer one-on-one coaching. So I do a lot of that, but absolutely work with people over the telephone. And then eventually, once I get my, I really want to develop a soul-paced program that somebody can download and kind of work as they are guided to do so eventually. But yeah.
Cool. And I see that Robbie, we seem to have lost Sifuboggie temporarily. So as we're wrapping up, welcome back. And do you have any questions?
Thank you. Well, I don't. I just want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate all the time that I've spent with you tonight. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. But needs must when the devil drives. But it's lovely meeting you. Lovely connecting with you. And I'll certainly be having a look, maybe have a look at your book when it comes out. You know, break a leg with that. Fantastic. You're doing great work. I can tell you come from a great heart space. You know, so yeah, very, very good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was nice meeting you as well.
Oh, it's always. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, it's awesome to have you on the show. It's very cool. I'm just trying to do this camera. So yeah, it's great to have you on the show. The other computer's just decided it's not going to activate the cameras for the moment, but going, it's live. So yes, it's great to have your show. Both part 1 and part 2 have been awesome. Sorry, we've pushed you into the medical side a little bit this time around, but you did well. You
have to get Trip on the show next time to solve my deficiencies.
That's not a problem. We can always do that next time. That would be cool. Yeah, I'm sure he would. We'd bore each other with talking about food and nutrition and medical stuff, and I'm sure he will correct me when I get wrong, which I always need that. So it's all good. So I would like to say, I'm trying to get the camera angle. Anyway, so I'd like to boil down and say thank you very much to the codes. Savoy has disappeared. the quiet one has gone. Also, Chris, the mighty questioner, Chris Classen, has also left the building. But the mighty Robbie is back. So thank you very much, Robbie, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always good to have you, my friend, my brother. And also, the Agent 35, it is, as always, the female questioner, the awesome female questioner, asking great questions. And just generally being here is always good to have you.
Well, thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Indeed it is. And finally, LeNae, thank you so much for being on the show. There was a little bit of a confusion of on next week, so it was good to have you on the show this week. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. We definitely did. Is there anything else? Good luck with your book. I'm looking forward to seeing your book come out. And good, if you'd like to come on the show in the future, possibly with your husband, you are more than welcome. After September, looking for dates for next year. So if you're available, that would be awesome. Okay, so
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being here. It's a great pleasure, an honor. To the guests next week. Next week could be interesting. I think it's Neil deGrasse, I think, is the guest. The top of the head, because we had a little bit of a swap around. He disappeared, couldn't find him, so hopefully he'll be there for next week. Or we might do a subject. So if there is a subject you guys would like to talk about, let us know, or we'll find one, won't we, guys? They'll nod. And we'll talk forever, because us three can talk, apparently. So I hope you enjoyed the show. We have immensely. Thank you so much to LeNae for being on the show. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, bye for now. Love, Chi, and Shen from the Way of Conscious Mindfulness.